We're back. It's your movie review, man. I'm Jeff Johnson.
I'm Claude Fatier.
And our ongoing special guest, Jeffrey II. That's right. The Jeffries Johnson in the house for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing The Suicide Squad. Not to be confused with Suicide Squad. Because when you do a sequel, the way you do it is you call it The Suicide Squad. So we're fresh from just watching it and bringing the review to you now. Claude, tell them what The Suicide Squad is.
Yeah, so The Suicide Squad, as opposed to just Suicide Squad, is a second go-around of the story. This one is directed by James Gunn, who's brought you Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and the second go-around for The Suicide Squad is, I guess you would say it's similar to sort of like, if you compare it to Star Trek, it would be sort of like The Wrath of Khan. It's a movie that a lot of people will think is better, and it's like, why didn't we get this movie the first time? The Suicide Squad, it centers around Amanda Waller, who recruits 13 inmates from the Belle Reve Penitentiary, also known as Task Force X, which are known as the Suicide Squads, where villains are given an opportunity to do some type of black ops mission for either reduced time or their freedom. Their assignment is that they are supposed to infiltrate a South American country and to infiltrate the country, destroy a lab, the Jotunheim lab, which supposedly has political prisoners and a super secret experiment known as Operation Starfish. I don't know if I'm necessarily getting it right. Each of the Suicide Squad, each of the inmates have an explosive implanted in their skull so that if they go off mission or anything happens, Amanda Waller can just push a button and they are instantly killed. There you go. Yes, Jeffrey did the click. And as with most missions, of course, we have an oddball of characters, and the complication comes from the fact that we have oddball characters, and as they are doing the mission complications come because the mission is not exactly what it's supposed to be.
So that's your setup for the film. You know how we do on the movie review, man. We're gonna give you our 4/5 rating. 4 is the very best rating. 0 is a real stinker, and we're trying to save you some money, some hours of your life, and telling you to stay at home. So we're gonna give you a quick review of it now, and then after the break, give you a detailed breakdown review of the film. So what say you, Claude, about The Suicide Squad?
All right, well, I think The Suicide Squad is an improvement compared to the first one. I definitely give it a solid 3 Black Power signs, 3 fists. Super solid 3 fists.
Solid.
Solid, Jackson.
Well, Jeffrey,
I think it's definitely very entertaining and a much, improvement over the one that came out earlier.
So Jeffrey has been super hyped about seeing this. This is our special guest that we bring in for all things comic book. And so, Jeffrey, what using our movie review 4/5 scale, what say you about The Suicide Squad?
Oh boy. There's a little part I'm nitpicking, but so close. There's a little part I'm nitpicking. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 for right now, but I may go to 4.
Very good, 3.5. I'm going to be stingy as well. They might think I'm stingy. I'm going to give it a 3.5 fists as well. And you know me, I complain about halves.
Oh,
but I really enjoyed this film. And when we come after the break, I'm gonna break down to you how Stingy Jeff gave 3.5 stars to The Suicide Squad. It's rated R. It's in the theaters and HBO Max simultaneous release, which is, again, another interesting, COVID times thing, which we'll break down what we think about that too. So you've heard it from us, the movie review men, and our special super guest, Jeffrey II. We gave 3.5, 3.5, and 3 fists. Want to know more? Listen after the break.
All right, one more thing, 3.5. You notice that Jeffrey Sr. gave it 3.5. So definitely shift command and 3. Click this moment because he gave it a half. He hates halves.
I hate halves.
Yeah, clink, okay.
and I gave a half. So there's got to be something to that. Wait till the break and find out why. We'll be right back. So we're back. It's your movie review, man. The Suicide Squad, rated R. The Suicide Squad 2021. It's the sequel without a 2 on it. Without a 2. Sequel without a 2. And so we're back to give you the full extended review. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. If you don't like what you see, don't say anything. Tell people that you like it anyway. I'm talking about our show. But as far as the Suicide Squad, let's break it down. Jeffrey, you want to go up first?
Nothing like a bloodbath to start the day.
Okay.
That's a good quote to kick it off. The Suicide Squad. I'll dive in first. The original film, Suicide Squad. The more I watched it, the more I thought about the actual worse it got. I thought it was okay when I saw it originally. You watch it some more and you find more things about it that, that just weren't good. It had lots of mixed pieces, a heavy cast, just like this one has a deep and heavy cast, but it just was just stitched together. It just wasn't, pieced together. You had a bunch of, big name stars. Will Smith made a nice individual performance. You had a bunch of nice individual performances that didn't stitch together to one great thing. Will Smith and Margot Robbie were the best parts of the film, I thought, as well as the leader, the person who pulls together this ragtag team of anti-heroes who forces them together. That's played by Viola Davis. You had all these performances. Jared Leto, again, I'm referring to the original Suicide Squad. Jared Leto was given all sorts of internet bad press about his Joker. His Joker was fine. There was nothing wrong with his Joker. He was in a terrible movie. He got to play Joker, and the worst thing about him was he was a bad boyfriend. That's all these Batman movies and comic books on Batman and cartoons. And the worst thing about him is he's a bad boyfriend. That's the worst thing about him. So I say that as a buildup, because this is not a review of the previous one. This is praise for the Suicide Squad. I think making the title that way is not so cocky. It really is telling you that this one is the Suicide Squad, and the other one, even though the other performances that I described to you,
just Suicide Squad.
Exactly.
You don't get the.
I think that
you don't get the.
That is cocky. That is cocky.
Is it cocky?
And you're saying
they should have put an extra E there so that everyone knows is the Suicide Squad.
Not a Suicide Squad, not just Suicide Squad 2, but the. That is actually pretty cocky. That is cocky.
It is pretty cocky.
It's basically, you know, but
So this film does the
I agree with
exact
it.
same thing. They do the exact same thing as far as loading it up with star power. And if you Google it or look it up in Internet Movie Database, you'll see that it is loaded with stars, but this time, those stars are used well. In fact, it's loaded with so many stars, I'm shocking myself, the people that are in there. Michael Rooker plays Savant. And again, since this is a spoiler-free, I won't tell you what he does as a Savant. I'll just say you'll really enjoy seeing him. Michael Rooker, for Guardians of the Galaxy fans, know him as the man who whistles and makes a certain arrow do whatever he wants, no matter how vicious and violent it is. And so it's fun just seeing him, and Gunn, Gunn takes full advantage of that, right? Gunn opens with Rooker and spends, I don't know, 3.5 minutes, 5 minutes with Rooker. He enjoys looking at Rooker, and we, the audience, enjoy seeing him. It's worth it. Not the whole movie is not worth the price of admission to see him, but it's worth watching him. Watching him in that's great looking. Viola Davis has the recurring role as Amanda Waller. She crushes Amanda Waller, but this time not in a wasted effort and not in a mixed tonal effort. This film doesn't mix tone. It's quirky, goofy,
Dark,
psychedelic in a dark, humorous way.
Yes.
I guess I have to go back and look. I think they PG-13 they PG-13 Suicide Squad, and it's part of why it was a mixed message film. It just couldn't get its tone right. This film's like, look, no holds barred. It's rated R. It's gonna be gross, violent.
Boom.
It's gonna be gross. It's gonna be violent. It's gonna be full of profanity, and we made it a guys film, and we almost brought the younger kids to the show. Almost. Ladies and gentlemen, no, we should not. Thank you very much. That comes from the kid. Parents, no, just because it's a superhero show, not for children. Not for children. But again, that's another reason why I give this movie high praise. It does everything it said it was going to do well. It does everything it says it's going to do well. It gave us a grown folk rated R superhero movie. So that means there's folks going to get killed and bloodletting and stuff's going to get smashed and stuff's going to, when we say Hulk smash, I love Hulk, but I mean, if it's a rated R movie, if Hulk smashes somebody, they have to actually get smashed. This movie smashes a lot of people. But also, since it's rated R, they have no problem with saying everything, showing everything, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a spoiler. There are full frontals in this movie. Don't bring your kids. They're full frontals. And when I say that it's violent and profane, there's full frontals before someone gets bloodlet and killed. Yes. Okay. So in that sense, it does everything that it said it was going to do, while at the same time, just being a visual. I'm not going so far as to make it a visual masterpiece, because then I would have given it a full 4 stars. But it is very visually appealing in a gross, violent, psychedelic way. And in that sense, it was just wonderful to watch. Several scenes were an orgy of violence. Several scenes were just an over-the-top artistic expression of violence, where you're watching this and you're like, why are they doing that? Just because it looks good? Oh, okay. Yeah, they're killing them that way because it looks good. Yeah, it had all those things in it. And in that sense, I guess I was rattling off the actors right quick. Not to kill you guys' glory if you wanted a deep dive. I'll just rattle off some of the actors. Nathan Fillion, which my wife loves him. He's the Rookie. He's Castle. He's Claude, help me out with the sci-fi cult classic.
I think it's Mal Reynolds from Firefly.
Wait, is he the Dark Knight then?
Yes, Jeffrey guessed it. Yes, TDK. He calls it The Dark Knight. You'll find out when you watch the film. That's not what it stands
Come
for.
on, they recast Batman in this movie. Batman started shooting a bunch of
Nathan,
people.
I don't even know how you recognize him. I'm reading it off the internet database, and he guessed right away. How did you even recognize him? How did you know?
I looked. And
So Nathan Fillion plays TDK, and you won't be able to recognize it as him, but you're going to enjoy the performance so much that when you watch it a second or third time, you'll be like, that is him. He really crushed that role. And that's because any really good, dare I call it art, any good art, yes, orgies of violence and profanity can be art. Any good piece of art is going to be worth watching the second time. So look for Nathan Fillion as TDK. It doesn't stand for The Dark Knight. It doesn't.
Oh, come on. You're crushing my Bat fan dream.
You will laugh. You will be grossed out and laugh when you find out what it stands for. But some of all the greatest hits return. Jai Courtney comes back as Boomerang. I don't even know all these people. Pete Davidson, which a lot of people recognize his comedic performance. He's a very happy, active talent.
The Blackguard.
It's just a big cast of folk, and I haven't even covered them all because the main headliners, ladies and gentlemen, is Idris Elba comes in as Bloodsport and is a primary character. So you might watch this and be like, oh, if we get rid of Will Smith, well, you got to get somebody as big. So we get Idris Elba. Well, first off, yes, that's what they did. If they got rid of Will Smith, they had to get somebody else big. Yeah. And Idris Elba is big. And again, just like the last movie, cast with excellent actors, but this time their performances aren't wasted. They're not wasted. If there was any question about whether the director makes a difference, the director makes a difference. If there's any question about whether the script makes a difference, the script makes a difference. The last film had big stars. I know I'm going to get a lot of comments about people who hate Jared Leto's performance. Jared Leto was fine as a Joker. There was nothing wrong with that Joker performance. It was in a terrible movie. The movie was terrible. I mean, what was he supposed to do? You want him to tap dance or something? I mean, the movie sucked. And whatever.
Tap dancing.
What? They tap dance with him?
No, I'm just playing.
But anyway, this film gets you Idris Elba, and Idris Elba does his thing in a non-wasted effort. In fact, the character, it's almost would have been a criticism to say that they gave you almost the exact type of motivation for Idris Elba as they gave to Will Smith's character. They're almost identical. It's almost a copycat, except he did his performance well. Will did his just fine, but in a film that made a difference. And then I'm leaving out what, again, are in the trailers, and John Cena's in this. John Cena is both hilarious and an action hero type. He's ridiculously silly, as you might have seen in many of his films. And so in this film, he can just go, totally buck wild in being just what he is. A muscle-headed dude who's hilarious, when he's playing an over-top particular character. So I'm gonna stop rattling down the list because there's so many. All right, this isn't a spoiler. This is not a spoiler, but I'm going to give it away. You're watching the credits. They're rattling off the names. You'll see all the names that I'm giving to you now. That's not a spoiler. And they say Sylvester Stallone. And I said, Sylvester Stallone's in this film? Ladies and gentlemen, this one I don't want you to Google. I dare you to watch the film and figure out who Sylvester Stallone is, because I'm just now reading it for myself, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious. That's how good this film is. I'm gonna let the rest of their guys give their ratings now. Why did I do the thing that I don't like and give it 3.5? It won't. It's not perfect, but it's doggone good. It's really doggone good. It does everything it said it was supposed to do, which is high praise. I give high praise. There may be people who don't like a film like this. I'm saying do not bring your children to this film. You may not like the way it goes. There is post credits. There is a post credit sequence. Stay to the end, but the post credit sequence they give, it's a throw. They do it so that they can do sequels. It's not substantive, but everything they said they wanted to do in the film, you get in this movie, and that's why it's 3.5 stars, and that's why I really, really, really enjoyed the Suicide Squad
With 2 E's.
with
2 E's.
With 2 E's.
Totally not clickbait. It's 2 E's. It's definitely 2 E's. Shoot, add another E.
So I took a lot of airtime. Claude?
All right, I definitely enjoyed the movie. I thought it was definitely a solid entertainment. I like James Gunn's whole take in terms of he does a real good job of combining the comic book action along with the sense of humor. And there definitely are a bunch of jokes that I think pay off pretty well. And a couple of times you're sort of led down a particular path, and then you're sort of like surprised. You're like, oh, did they actually do this? And I think that it's just absolutely another reason he's the right person for this is that we're basically dealing with the heroes that are a bunch of different misfits. I mean, we had a human-sized weasel. We have Ratcatcher 2. Ratcatcher 2 is hilarious. You got sort of like the javelin person. You have TDK, which is he's hilarious. And overall, So I mean, he was definitely. I mean, he knows how to handle this type of material. We've seen him do it. Like just a number of times with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, he took something which had a bunch of obscure misfit characters and literally turned it into something that was compelling. I would definitely say, I think I was a little more attached to the Guardians compared, to the people here, but I definitely feel that this was, just amazing. It was amazing entertainment, and I thought the story was really interesting, but it's just overall it was just a lot of fun. And again, as you pointed out, just all the characters, Amanda Waller just seriously just being the boss of everything. I think she came off a little more serious in that first movie, and I think just the fact that the the first one I think is played a little more seriously, I think it takes away from the goofiness of certain characters. Captain Boomerang, I mean, it's just somebody who throws some boomerangs and some of the other things. I think that when you have misfit characters that are not, like sort of like the A or B or maybe on the C list, that just adds for more interesting stuff because they're number one, they're not that powerful, but they may have an interesting power, and he definitely sort of lends himself to that.
Polka dots.
Oh, what was it, Jeffrey? Go ahead.
I was like, what does he do? Shoot polka dots?
Yes, I mean, the polka dot man definitely was just that was just cool things they did with his character. And it was interesting. You sort of had a theme where people were dealing with either parent or children issues, which did not just seem like a throwaway, but it was central to a number of characters. And I like the way, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jeffrey, because it's also reminded me how they sort of evolved Harley Quinn's character. Because if you saw the first Suicide Squad, they presented her a particular way. Then she had her own movie with the Birds of Prey, that really, really long title, which I thought it was very entertaining. But they built on this whole idea of the thing they do visually in terms of how she sees things. Because if you're taking a look at that Birds of Prey movie, when she's going over a narration, they have like a little animation in the beginning, and it's like now she went from somebody who's just being quirky to you actually have a sense of what her point of view is like when she's when she's into something, how she sees things. I mean, I absolutely love the moment where where she you see her sort of like underneath some fluid, and you see the rats swimming around. And I mean, there's like a whole bunch of cool stuff. You
The
know,
visuals are
the
crazy.
flowers. You had the cartoon flowers exploding behind her, and you actually had cartoon birds also. I mean, it was just.
He has one of the best.
I just really like the fact that he just, just took that idea, because just, straight from the, first movie, her own movie. You had a little bit of the animation thing, and then he just said, let's just take this for a ride and just build on it. So she has she has a expanding footprint in each movie that she's in, and we, definitely as a character that we love, and also unpredictable. As much as she says she's had a victim of sort of bad relationships. Well, we see some more to her character.
Yeah, it's like yeah, and you really do. That's right.
Just feel good female characters. That rat catcher too. I thought I really liked her. I was just I think that was just a cool power to have, and I'm glad they sort of jumped on it in terms of a recurring character, because Marvel, they have a similar character, Squirrel Girl, and I think the fact that they got this rat catcher too, I absolutely love. The rat is waving to people. I mean, it just, the way.
How are all these rats in this area?
Oh, what?
How are all these rats in this area?
Yeah, if you thought Batman could summon a lot of bats,
woo,
boy,
it's way worse.
Right, but to your point, you have all these misfit characters, and then it makes it actually more of a genuine hero story when you're a genuine hero team up story. When you try to figure out how are all these misfits, and they're different powers, and maybe even as brought up earlier, two folks with the exact same power, how is it going to make a difference in our heroes overcoming overcoming the villain, right? And you're given all of that. You're even given very early, right off the bat, one of the characters is like, what kind of team are you putting together? He has the exact same powers that I have. Right. It's like, what kind of team is this?
You shoot polka dots.
Right. And they got somebody who shoots polka dots. And it's like, that's it? That's the power?
Yeah.
And
we're all gonna die.
Right, we're all gonna die.
And the weasel.
And a woman who summons rats.
Oh, he's not harmless. He killed 27 kids and children.
Right. Right. That was it gross. That was it gross about the rats, but just like, really? And then like in all good stories, the stakes just keep getting higher till you get to the point where what makes a superhero story is like, yeah, I'm not so sure our heroes can overcome this. And they certainly can't overcome it individually, right? Which is what a whole hero story is about. I would, Claude, were you wrapped, ready to toss it?
Yes, I am. There you go.
Toss it to you,
I would
JT.
also say that it's interesting seeing the humanity or lack of in different members. Like, there's no spoiler. Ratcatcher 2 is like most innocent one out of all of them. And then you just have Peacemaker like, he said this in the trailer, so it's not, but he's like, I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many fathers, women, children have to die to get it. And they were like, oh.
Right. Every one of them was a criminal for some reason, right? Including Peacemaker. Every single one of them, did somebody's kind of crime.
And he was described in
especially Peacemaker.
Especially Peacemaker. Even Polka Dot Man, as we come to find out, he's off. So he did some things because he's not right in the head.
The dude that's named Peacemaker is actually more violent than everybody on the entire team, including King Shark and Bloodsport, which is ridiculous.
Indeed.
Like, I think the actual director of the film described him as a douchey Captain America. It is just this movie. Now, I heard of I think the director actually
Come on into the shop.
confirmed. Oh, got it in my hand. Yeah. I almost got my hand caught. Hey, I heard I'm actually have to fact check this. But I believe the director said some characters that could have been in the Suicide Squad, like Deathstroke, Black Manta, and others. And I'm like, wow, those are top tier DC villains. But this film is so funny because they use characters that you can just laugh at. Ratcatcher 2, what happened? You guys couldn't afford the first one? It is like, is that a spoiler?
That's not a spoiler.
They're like, no, the first one is dead. They're like, okay.
Yeah, that's not
I guess.
Right, okay, that's not an improvement. We're so C-list. You got Ratcatcher 2. If you weren't confused as to what the heck you're going to do.
As if we knew the first one in the first place.
Right, exactly.
It's like the movie is so hilarious because of the characters that they use. King Shark is I've seen parts of this Harley Quinn show. King Shark is like a comedy character from what I see.
Okay.
Yeah. Polka Dot Man. I think he's a Batman villain, I believe. Who takes him seriously? Like they pick a bunch of James Gunn picked a bunch of weird, odd DC choices, but I believe that a lot of us are hyped about this film because of the trailers, but also because of the director. Because I don't think we're gonna be like, oh, Polka Dot Man is the best DC villain ever. I can't wait to see polka dots on the screen. Or Ratcatcher, I love rats. They're my favorite animal ever. Or even worse, Peacemaker is so peaceful. I love it. I don't think he's very peaceful. He just concept that. But hey, they just picked a bunch of random people, and like other superhero movies, like what Marvel does, like say the Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't know them before they came out. So they pick a bunch of DC characters that, unless you read like obscure comic books, you may not know the characters of. Like some people I've heard of, like Polka Dot Man, but yeah, so that made the movie funnier, and they kind of poke fun at the other characters, and I thought that was great. So James Gunn, I think, is great for the specific Suicide Squad where you poke fun at them. So you guys can look up what do you think about the people that could have been in the movie. I believe that's what James Gunn said about it. But the movie would have been a completely different tone, serious tone. But this movie will blow. That's a spoiler. This movie will literally shoot the crap out of people and still be hilarious. Right? It keeps the tone even after your face is off. So like it's just really great, and yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Oh, but one last thing, I gave it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
You gave it a 3.5 out of 4, by the way.
Oh yeah, 3.5 out of 4. I meant because I do think this movie is close to perfect in my opinion. Like, yeah. Because of the way some things happen in the end that are just kind of silly. But this movie takes twists and turns that I didn't expect. The director said, don't stay attached to some people. I didn't expect some people to... I didn't expect it at all. So I think this movie was great. Hope he comes back for more. And this probably, in my opinion, I think it's better than his other movies I've seen with the Guardians. And that's a hard thing for me to say.
That's high praise.
But I think it's...
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm going to name drop a little bit more. Alice Braga. I like her in everything she does. They always give her little bit parts. Alice Braga when she's introduced. Again, it's both hilarious and dark humor. Dr. Hoovians within the sound of our voice. Peter Capaldi just looks ridiculous and takes himself completely seriously. He's a thinking man, if you will. As the thinker, he takes himself totally serious, even though he looks preposterous. And it's just great. It's just great. Lynn Ash, you might not know who Lynn Ash is, but when you see Lynn Ash and how many times you see Lynn Ash, you will laugh.
Actually, I have one last thing to say.
Drop it.
I'm glad, and this is a no spoilers, so I'm not gonna say any spoilers, but I'm glad that they used Starro the Conqueror. He's a giant starfish that shoots stars. That is the most comic book thing I've ever heard in my entire life. First, you got a polka dot man, then you got a giant starfish from out his face. It is just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I just think that,
and it completely works too. Because after I'm watching it, and like they show some of it in the trailer, they give you kaiju vibes. So that's not a spoiler. If you watch the trailer, you're like, this looks big. But yeah, I'm wondering how are these people gonna beat this thing, and you have to find that out for yourself. Like, can y'all beat this giant Godzilla starfish kaiju? That's very interesting. Which makes for great superhero stories. Period. You know, we have to have a villain that you're wondering how it might get done, and they just did a better job in this one than they did in the other one. It just more emotional. The other one just didn't make any sense. And to your point, more emotional. This film actually had the nerve to boom. Yeah, it killed a lot of people in very bloody ways. But yet had the nerve to actually recognize, as you mentioned, the humanity in certain characters, and even some of the moral and ethical challenges of a film that is just gonna, we already told you, it's full of shots to the head and faces ripped off and bloody sequences strictly for the action, and some for the comedy, and some for the action comedy, and some for the gore. All of that's in there just for that, but yet they still drop a few pearls in there that's like, but that's not right. And you watch it like, ooh, you're gonna actually take a serious tone, and you're gonna sprinkle in a little moral and ethical components to it. It's like, oh, okay. That was totally confused in the previous film. This film was like, no, this film is silly, violent, full of profanity and gross, but we're not justifying anything. We're saying it's silly, gross, not right.
Not anything.
Funny.
We will probably make you feel a little uncomfortable. I'd honestly say that time in the beginning when he's talking to the daughter, I was like, okay, is this a comic book movie? The way they were yelling at each other, I was like,
oh my gosh, yes,
like,
yes. But then it still was funny because you were watching an extremely intense, dramatic sequence of folks that I don't know. I don't watch all these shows, but a lot of the cable shows, a lot of the Showtime shows have kind of like despicably dysfunctional families going at it on a very dramatic thing, and it's hilarious to watch how badly they behave, but then it drops back and gets very serious and touching. That's the scene you talk about. I don't want to steal your thunder on that, Claude. But I agree with you. You're like, whoa, this is getting very intense, and it's only funny in it how realistic how real life the bad behaving of these persons is. That's Storm Reed. You recognize her when you see her. Storm Reed is a remarkable actor, and she plays the daughter of Bloodsport, played by Idris. You're right. That scene crushes, and I dare say again, we're not spoiling, but you get all the way to the end at the climax sequence, and they drop a little bit on you to say, "You sure you're happy about the outcome?" Did you guys catch that at the very end, the very last line, not of the movie, but the the dun, da, 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 and the thing happens, and then they drop in a little. Are you sure you're happy about that, audience? Are you sure you're happy about the outcome? And then it moves on. It doesn't preach. It doesn't stay at that because it's not that kind of film. It's a silly, violent, dark humor, profanity-filled roller coaster ride. But that doesn't take itself too seriously, but it does remind you there are a few things in there that are a little bit serious. With excellent performances. So, The Suicide Squad.
With 2 E's.
Rated R. It's rated R. Please take our advice. Don't do it. Don't take the person that you're going to be uncomfortable sitting next to when you get full frontal nudity and then a shot to the head. If that's not going to work for the audience you're traveling with, don't bring that person. But if you're going to watch full frontal nudity and then a shot to the face, and you're gonna jump and get grossed out and laugh at something that when you think about it, you're like, I'm laughing at this, but I know it's wrong. It's wrong, but I'm still laughing. If that's the kind of film you're gonna want to see, you've heard it from Claude. He gave 3 stars. You heard it from the Jeffries Johnson. We gave 3.5 power fists. That's what we think about the Suicide Squad. Let us know what you think. Subscribe, comment, give us your feedback.
Make more, James Gunn. Make more, please.
Right.
This is our very special guest, Jeffrey II. Thank you again. We are your movie review men. I'm Jeff Johnson.
Claude Baitier.
We will see you next time.